And he said, the players between the lines, they can handle that. It's what's happening outside the lines that we need to be more aware of.
Everybody, Doc Bryan here, and welcome to Doc Talks. We talk about people's troubles, trials, tribulations, and hopefully triumphs in life. Again, today we're in LifeWord Studios here in Conway, Arkansas, in over 27 countries, 150 languages, to a potential listening audience of over 2 billion people. You can find our content at lifeword.org. Today I have with me Duffy Guyton. Duffy is the Director of Church Relations and the pitching coach at Central Baptist College here in Conway. Duffy, it's good to have you with us today.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about you. What if somebody sees Duffy Guyton, what do they need to know about Duffy?
Not a whole lot. No, I'm just playing. But my background is I played professional baseball in St. Louis Cardinal organization in the minor leagues. After that, went in and was a scout for the Kansas City Royals for many years. And during that time, after playing professional baseball, also I coached on the college level at Dallas Baptist University. Lord was stirring my heart during that time and realized he was calling me to the ministry. And so we moved from Dallas, Texas to Memphis, Tennessee to attend Mid-America Baptist Seminary. So I've been in higher education administration close to 30 years at Dallas Baptist University and at Mid-America Seminary and now at Central Baptist College. From close to 20 years at Mid-America Seminary in higher education administration there and leadership, then the Lord moved us to Central Baptist College. Did not think and really ever fathom that I would be back in college coaching. But now I'm the pitching coach at CBC along with my administrative duties there in church relations. So on any given day, it's a blessing, it's a joy, but ministering with pastors and churches and walking with them and introducing them and cultivating friendships and providing resources to better partner with Central Baptist College, and also using baseball or high-level college instruction as a platform to continue to build and mentor this younger generation in the form of college baseball. Yeah. Never thought about that. Never really thought I'd be back in college baseball, but it is an incredible joy. Incredible joy. Of
course, you have your beautiful wife, Dawn.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You have 3 kids or 4 kids?
4, and she's been amazing. She grew up in a pastor's family, and so she's just been an incredible helpmate and encouragement throughout these years. And then we have 4 sons. They're all married, and one lives in Texas, and the other 3 live here.
Yeah, I saw you just got one of your boys off your payroll. Yeah, got him married there. How many of your children played baseball? Was that kind of a passion that they shared?
Well, 2 of them did, and at one time 3. Mm-hmm. But we never. It was our goal and passion not to push that on them. I think playing. I'm not saying this is always true, but I think when you play at a higher level, you understand that it's got to be self-motivated to an extent, and we wanted them to love the game and enjoy the game. And so when I believe all 4 of them played when they were 8 and 9 years old, and I would coach them. And I heard this from a pastor friend of mine. He said, he would say, I would always try to coach my children because I had to be at the games and I had to be at the practices. Well, that landed very well on my heart. And so I coached them on a recreational level at churches that we were at and things like that. And it was just fun, and we were teaching them the mechanics and the foundations and the fundamentals of baseball. And then if they wanted to go a little bit higher, then they could. But we really tried to intentionally not to push that on them. Mm-hmm. And so 2 eventually kept playing. One played college baseball, and the other one did not. But then we also had another son that played college soccer, and he played baseball when he was younger, but he also had a love and a passion for soccer. And we had that discussion when he was about 12 or 13 years old, and he said, "Dad, I love baseball, but I really love soccer." And I said, "Well, don't play baseball to please me." I said, "You're going to have a lot of people say, well, you need to be, your dad played pro ball, your dad did this, your dad did that." And I said, "I never want you to do that. I want you to do something." I said, "When I see you play soccer," I said, "it makes me happy." I said, "You're doing something I never got to do or never did," and those type of things. And so he ended up playing college soccer and was a very good goalie.
Yeah. So you touched on you played minor leagues with the Cardinals. Tell me about the day you were drafted.
Yeah. Well, I had an opportunity in high school to sign with the Kansas City Royals. And as we were talking as a family, my family was a praying family. And I grew up in my mother was an educator. My dad was a police officer. And as we were discussing that, she said, "Duffy, if the Lord has baseball in your future, we would hope so." But what I'm saying is that she encouraged me to go to school. She said, "If you were to sign now and go play professional ball, you may not go back to college." And so I signed with University of Louisiana Monroe. I was highly recruited, a lot of schools, a lot of top schools. It was a fun recruiting process, but I stayed close to home and went there, and really had no clue that I would end up getting drafted. Had a really good college career at University of Louisiana Monroe, and then transferred to Dallas Baptist University, and then got drafted out of Dallas Baptist University. Dallas Baptist University has an incredible history of baseball. We were averaging at the time 6 to 7 to 8 guys getting drafted per year. We had 3 major leaguers that were in the major leagues at that time, and we had scouts at the games. We were playing a pretty good D1 schedule. We played Texas, University of Texas, Texas A&M, Rice, Baylor, TCU, all of those top teams, and it was just fun baseball. So we were getting the exposure, and they were seeing that we were playing and competing and winning against these top teams. And as many know now, Dallas Baptist University baseball, they're ranked in the top 20, 25, and still carry on that tradition today.
Yeah, so one of my best friends is George Gregory, and he's the chaplain for the Los Angeles Chargers. And he talks about the draft process and how people are so excited, to be there, but then there comes a point where they might be cut. And especially Major League Football, that's a huge income type of challenge. And so he deals with a lot of people who then go into depression or turn into some kind of chemical dependency. Do you recall anything like that happening while you were playing?
Great question. We've never talked about that. So I appreciate you asking. And the stress and pressures every day, especially in minor league baseball, is that you could be cut any day. If the general manager was there watching you, you wanted to perform well and to be successful, but anything could happen. And you see your friends play well the day before, and then they're released the next day. And you're thinking, what all do I have to do? What else do I have to do? And so that's always in the back of your mind. I believe everyone would probably say that. But I noticed after I played ball and really after I coached, I was about 28 years old, maybe 29, close to 30. I can't remember exactly. But I hit the wall, and hitting the wall meaning it was that time of heart check. It was like there's no more baseball. I've been doing this all of my life, and now, and I had 2 small children, and just life was evolving, life was changing, and and I started to go through a depression, and I called several close friends, several pastors, and they were able to walk with me through this. One close pastor friend of mine who pastored a long time, he played AAA baseball with the Houston Astros. And when he was teaching us in seminary, he shared his testimony about that. He said he hit the wall, so to speak. And so that was one of the first guys I called, and I said, what's happening here? What's going on? And also I was pastoring, and so I'm not sure if they use this word now today, but compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was experiencing a lot of that, but I've never experienced before. And I was realizing all of the stress and pressures that probably built up over time I believe that the Lord was leading me how to handle those correctly and biblically, and by calling out to Him and having some really experienced people walking with me through that time.
Yeah. So if you could recall one moment in playing with the Cardinals, that was just your highlight moment, what would that moment be?
It happened in spring training. We would have other teams come in, Cleveland Indians and New York Yankees, and because we're all playing around near that area. A lot of major leaguers would come in and play, and so I had a chance to pitch against major leaguers. Jim Tomei, who I believe is a Hall of Famer, got a chance to pitch against him and do very well against those guys. Some other guys who were, I believe one gentleman was a Rookie of the year before, and I was able to pitch against him. So those were kind of highlights. They weren't in the real game; they were in spring training. But I get this question asked: did you pitch against major leaguers? And I'm like, yeah, I did. I had and it was fun and had success. It was.
Yeah. One of the members of Parkview Baptist, where I pastor, of course, she's passed away now. Her son's Kevin McReynolds.
Oh, yes.
And so everybody at Parkview just about had a signed picture of Kevin McReynolds and Pete Rose together. And now coming into ministry, I didn't know anything about baseball. I played basketball until I figured out it was running sport, and I stopped all that. But in looking at baseball as a sport, we see the competition there, but also there is that competition, I would think, against other players even on your team.
Absolutely.
To try to keep your spot. How did the dynamic of the teams work when there might have been that I think I deserve this spot, or that person isn't good enough?
A lot of fakeness, but because you want to be able to trust others, and I think that's some things that in a college sport, in a college setting, you have that teamwork that it's a high level. You know people are pulling for you because it's all about the team, and that's what's taught. Pro level's out the window. It's totally out the window. It's all about self. And I had to learn very quickly on that. But at the same time, I wanted to keep pulling for my teammates, even though, yes, if they did well, that means that I may get released, vice versa. I learned the hard way of learning what to take to heart and what not to. Had a pitcher friend of mine. I think I'm really hoping that he was, trying to teach me well, but at the same time, it didn't work well. So he was dissecting and trying to tell me what I was doing right and wrong, and he showed me a new type of slider. Well, I wanted to get better, and so I said, absolutely. And I lost my slider, and I was a fastball slider pitcher, threw in the low 90s to 93 miles an hour, and then I had a slider and then somewhat of a changeup. And when he taught me that slider, I lost my slider for 2 weeks, and I realized, was he trying to help me or was he trying to hurt me? And I didn't know. And so I learned to try to be a little bit more discerning and trusting, and it was a wake-up call for me. But I think ones that are on the major league team, that concept of teamwork and the team concept is a little bit more unified.
Yeah.
But minor league ball, it's all about self, moving up from single A to double A to triple A, and because every one of them want to be on the major league level.
Right, right. So switching direction here to college athletics. We're called student athletes, which I don't know, especially those in D1 schools that have NIL deals. I don't know how much of a student athlete that is, as opposed to some of them have some sort of celebrity status where they're making millions of dollars in NIL. And I've read recently, which I'm more into football than I am baseball, so I can only speak to football. But I read where some seniors of colleges are getting drafted, but they're making less money going to the NFL than they are in their NIL deals. Now, at Central Baptist College, you're not dealing with a lot of NIL stuff, if any at all. But being at Central Baptist, do you feel like some of your student athletes are there and committed to the team, and are there other ones that are there to try to be a stepping stone to get into a different school?
Yeah, incredible questions, and I think on a coaching level, I think we can't look at it and ignore that anymore. I think that we, as college coaches, especially on the NAI level and this type of level, we have to understand that that's a possibility because that's all they see and that's what they're exposed to. But they may not understand the severity of that. They just see what Division I is happening and what they're doing, especially the transfer portal, and they think that's normal and natural. And really, what we're trying to teach is that the effects are not going to be as positive as what you think, even though, because you just hear a certain part or some certain stories that are positive, but we don't hear all the other negative stories that have negatively affected the student athletes and those type of things. And so, from our view, and I think from a coach's view, and I'll just speak personally, every day, and I know this may sound a little odd, but every day that's on my mind. And so how do I communicate? How do I connect and be intentional with these student athletes, not only between the lines, but also outside the lines? Just before driving over here, I was able to talk with 7 baseball players just walking through the hallway, and we had at least a 1 to 2 minute conversation, and encouraging them and seeing how they're doing, and they're conversing back and forth, and we're smiling and laughing, but I think all of those play part if that communication, that connection is built, then I think that builds a platform or a foundation where they're not thinking, oh, I'm expected to transfer. I'm expected to do this or that, because we really believe that the more that the longevity that's there or the consistency, it's going to be better off. It's going to be healthy, I think, healthier in their life. We talk about relationships. We talk about jobs. We talk about decisions. And if they think, well, I'm going to play here for 1 year or 2 years, then I'm going to go somewhere else, that's not always, and as we say sometimes, it's not always greener, is it? But they don't see it that way because that's all they hear about. Right. And I think on a coach's standpoint, especially nowadays, we have to be aware of that, and it has to be part of who we are on a daily basis. That it's not just keeping them here, but also being able to influence them and being around this positive environment and to help them and mentor them. Now, if coaches don't have that heart, then obviously that's not going to be concerning to them.
Right. One thing that I do love about CBC's baseball team is the camaraderie that they come together. You have your camps where y'all go off and have relational times, but get into the Word. Last March, when we had our tornado that come through that devastated our community, your baseball team came out, and probably the biggest, there was two takeaways that really just did something for me. Was when you first got there, Coach Brister, the head coach, was giving a sort of devotional of where he was saying, hey, this is where we're being the hands and the feet of Christ. Yeah. And so it was directed in a biblical perspective. But he said, and it's true, he said, guys, today you're probably not going to do as much for the church as you're doing for yourself by serving. How is that a normal thing within what you do at CBC Athletics?
Absolutely. Yesterday, we're putting together a batting practice cage, or turtle, as they call it, and I didn't have a lot to help me do that, but I had 3 guys that showed up, and as you just privately pray and say, Lord, may the time that we spend, may it be pleasing to you and beneficial. And so the conversations, and we're putting this batting practice cage up from the bottom, ground up, and it took us a long time. But we did not, my heart is I did not want that to, and we talked about some personal issues that they're going with, and I think through our lens is that we want to try to take advantage of everything that we do to try to help them through life, and knowing that that it is pleasing and serving the Lord, but also things that they're doing, it's going to help grow them and mature them, hopefully. And the things that they learn now, hopefully they'll be able to carry on through that. For example, serving at your church through the devastation of the tornado, our heart is that the things that they learned on that day and saw the devastation, and even though they were physically moving equipment and bookshelves and throwing away all the incredible debris, that this would impact their hearts and lives, that they would continue to be the hands and feet and carry of Christ and to carry that on and reproduce that over and over again. That's our heartbeat. And then plus, I'm being around leaders like you, how to see how a leader like you that was going through that, but how gracious you were, how merciful you were, and then how you still led in a valiant way in front of them. Those are all the things we want this generation to capture, because they're not really seeing that a whole lot. Yeah. And so those type of opportunities we do want to be the hands and feet of Jesus, but at the same time, we also want them to learn so they can continue to carry out their legacy.
Yeah. I know some studies and some church studies we just look at and roll our eyes, but one of the church studies that's come out within the last 4 or 5 years is that if we want to attract or keep younger people in this generation, that they have to be working for a cause, that it's not just that we are a part of a group, but that they're working to advance the community or whatever goal or perspective that they have. I'm sure that you've experienced in your time coaching student athletes that come and they've never been a part of a true team. And so while they've played baseball, it's just been, we come play baseball. We're not fellowshipping with one another. What kind of change do you see in those students as they transition into what we would see as a true team?
Yeah. I think first it's the process of realizing and maybe understanding at some point that there's a lot of selfishness and self-centeredness. This day and age of baseball, it's not just high school and college, but they've been playing on a high level, most of them, since they're 8 years old. We term that showcase travel ball and those type of things, which has benefits. but at the same time can be a little negative, or can kind of teach them the self-centeredness at an early age. What I mean by that is that you have 10 or 11 on a team. They all get to play, and they're coached by coaches who have either played high school ball or college ball, or even instructors who are doing this for a living. So they're getting taught the game of baseball at a high level, but they're also playing at a high level. I mean, they're expected to perform 5-6 games in a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so they're at that high energy level the entire weekend, and everything revolves around them. Mm-hmm. The entire family goes out. Sister, brother, mom, dad, all the grandparents are there, which that's all positive. But that's what we're sort of receiving on the college level, is that that's what they've been involved with for a long time. And so now we're for a purpose of winning. If it's winning the conference title, if it's winning a national title, or whatever the goals are, we see, and I'm not sure if it lasts, if it's for the first part of the fall or spring, but we do see that they're learning that it's been evolved to itself a lot. And I wish I could say, can we see them evolve from being self-centered all the way to a team concept? It's not really outstanding or visible, so to speak, but we do see their attitudes change. We see them enjoying the teamwork, the brotherhood, so to speak. And I think one cause that on college sports, especially for young men, is that the brotherhood aspect is that you've got my 6 and I've got your 6, and we're going to go do this together. I've seen hearts change, and I've seen hearts become all about them or self-centered, and then it's about, well, I'm here to protect my brother, and that's really, really neat when that happens.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest problems that men have today is we were taught that you have to do it on your own. You know, there was a retweet of a post the other day that I saw, and it said, men don't cry. And then there was a subtweet to that said, that's right, we bottle it up, and then we suffer stress and a heart attack and die at the age of 40 like real men. And while that can be comical, it happens every day.
Right, absolutely.
Because we don't understand the true concept of community. So we have to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and go alone. But God never intended for us to go alone. If we look how Jesus sent the disciples 2 by 2, you know, they weren't sent out by themselves. And so this idea of having the community there within the men and having that passion for that is great. What I would see is that when they transition out of college sports, how many of them carry on that need of community and get plugged in somewhere?
Well, we hope that it's high, and I know we've evaluated, and I know in our situation, our program, we stay very close with our alumni. Mm-hmm. I know our graduation rate is above average, and then when we're talking with them, I know many of them are pouring into, and they're becoming coaches. For example, there are 5 in the last 2 years that are now coaching. They've graduated within the last 2 years. They're coaching on the college level. That's really, really positive and sort of neat about that. But we talk about one thing that Coach Brister in the program. His goal is that we want to leave a legacy. So we talk about that quite often. You know, what's your legacy going to be now? But then how are you going to leave your legacy? And then how are you going to continue to carry on the things that you're learning here on a day-to-day basis, on the highs and the lows, going through not only maybe the physical ups and downs, but also the emotional ups and downs, and how, but how to carry that out. I just in our narrow segment is that we've seen that that they are making an impact, that they're carrying it on, even if it's in whatever occupation that they're in. I think it's very serious for them to do that.
Yeah. Kind of just taking a turn here. Yeah. Let's talk about student athletes and their mental health. Yeah. We know that mental health is a huge thing, especially at the collegiate level. They're trying to perform not only as student athletes, but as students. And I'm sure that there are times that those paths cross.
Oh, absolutely.
And what are a couple of things mental health wise that you see in students today that's pretty common?
Yeah. One thing is, I think from a coaching standpoint, is that we cannot ignore it anymore. We have to understand that it's here and it's real. And in the last few years, I don't have studies for this. This is where you come in.
Sure.
But what I have seen, and we sort of say it's either pre-COVID or post-COVID. But since COVID, I've seen the effects of depression a little bit more vividly than before. But the positive is that they're talking more about it. They're able to, and then when I'm saying, hey, what's wrong today? How are you doing? And you seem a little bit more lethargic, or I may not use the word melancholy, but you seem kind of down or sad. And then that will open up, and I feel depressed today. I don't know why. I just feel like I'm in a fog today, and those type of things. So part of that is positive. Well, I think it's in some form has always been there, but we're not talking about it like we weren't talking about it like we are now. So I think, especially on the college level, especially from 18 to 24, whatever years old, especially through the leadership, the coaches, we have to be serious and intentional, and we have to talk about and have those hard discussions sometimes. It's for their benefit. I know in the 7 years that I've been back in college coaching, it's been numerous situations and numerous players that have gone through some form of depression. And so it's real. It's there. A very well-known college coach said this a few years ago from a top 5 program. And he said, the players between the lines, they can handle that. It's what's happening outside the lines that we need to be more aware of. And that hit me and landed, I think, pretty well because it's easy even as coaches to coach and to prepare them to be high-level performers between the lines. But what's happening when they go back? They have that test or that paper, and we put a lot of demands on them as well. Many of them will start practice and workouts at 6 a.m. in the morning. Then they have a class at 8 o'clock, class at 9 o'clock, class at 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock. Then they have lunch. Then we expect them to be for individual practice sessions at 1 or 1:30, and then team practice at 2, and then we'll go all the way to 5:30 sometimes. And then we may even have meetings after that, and then they're expected to study. So there's a lot of demands. I've seen some things in this go-around in the last few years that I've never seen, that I've personally never seen. I saw one pitcher break down in the middle of the game. This is one of our top pitchers. I don't know if I ever told you this story. And And I could see, as a pitching coach, you're warming him up and you're getting him ready, and we're talking about the batters. This is about 45 minutes to 30 minutes before the game, and we go through a very strenuous progression pregame workout, and it's really fun. It's really neat, and I really enjoy walking the pitchers through that, getting them ready for that contest and that game. But I could tell he was very lethargic. He just was just didn't seem. He seemed off, and I'm asking him questions. How are you doing? And he was answering. That's another thing too. Is I think they know how to answer the right way. Oh, I'm doing good, Coach.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I'm doing great. Everything's good. And okay, And I just had to be very detailed with him, which I normally do not have to. I had to tell him everything what we're doing every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. Well, our head coach in the dugout, as he gets out on the mound, he normally asks, well, how did he look in the bullpen? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know. And he went, what do you mean you don't know? I've never said that. And I said, I don't know what's going to take place. I said, I can't put my finger on it. Well, he got out of that inning, 1, 2, 3, and still just had my question marks going. He didn't really have great stuff, but he just got out of the inning. Next inning, he walks a guy, and the guy bunts, and he stands on the mound, doesn't do anything. Our catcher is saying, get the ball. And he stands there sort of paralyzed, so to speak. And the head coach looked at me, and I'm looking straight at him, and he's like, what's happening? And I don't know if this is the right thing to say or not. I just said he looks like he's having a breakdown. That's all I knew what to say, because I'm like, what's happening? We rush out there, and he was staring into space. We got we pulled him all out of the game. We got his parents involved. We have 2 Christian counselors there on campus, and we got him involved with them. I would talk with him every day and just ask him hard questions and just be a friend to him. And we shut him down for 2 weeks, and he made a decent comeback, but he just wasn't the same. And we walked with him in the off season, and he was able to get the care that he needed. And then the next year, he became an all-conference pitcher. And I remember he played against that same team, and he shut them out, that same team the year before, and he shut them out. And he pitched the complete 9-inning game. He came back, and he gave me a hug, and he said, it's not like last year, is it, Coach? And I said, no, it's not. Yeah. That was a wake-up call for me, because here as a coach, I don't know if you ever think about that, but I'm really seeing a pitcher who is 21 years old, who is struggling with something, and I could not do anything about. And so, me personally, I think what has encouraged and really just heightened my awareness is not to hide, not to ignore, to ask them questions, stay connected in their lives, if it's from constant daily or every other day text, phone calls, and just being a part of their lives. So that relationship building, they will feel the trust to ask, and they'll feel comfortable to maybe share some things. Sure. Even this year, we've had several. Just on Saturday, a pitcher who has gone through some situations and has struggled with depression. He had a great game on Tuesday, but did not pitch very well on Saturday. And he came up to me, and I could tell he wasn't doing very well. He's very disappointed. But then he shared, well, my father just, as he said, railed on me, meaning just let him have it. And I'm in the middle of the game, and I just put my arm around him, and I said, man, I'm sorry that happened. I said, but I want you to know that you are precious in the sight of Christ. And I said, never allow your pitching performance to dictate your value, even though you probably weren't as well as you wanted to be. But never let your performance dictate God's value for you, because you're precious in His sight. And that's in the middle of a game.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Lord, this is totally different than what I thought it was going to be. And but I'm grateful for that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that all coaches are even comfortable doing those type of things. I guess my encouragement is, number one, know that it's there, know that players are going through the highs and lows, and also know that they've gone through high pressure and stress situations since they're 8 or 9 years old. And when they break, it's going to probably happen.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can help them and even cultivate them even before they go through that.
Yeah. The good news, the bright side of that is that most of the time those breaks happen around people they trust and they feel safe with. And I find myself saying a lot to people, it's not about who you are, it's about whose you are, that we're beloved sons and daughters of the Most High God.
Amen.
And it doesn't matter how we perform. There's nothing that we can do today that's going to make God love us any less. But on the flip side of that, there's nothing we can do that's going to make Him love us any more than He does right in this moment. I just want to touch on just a moment. I know that you had a former player that developed cancer and passed away. How did that affect the coaching staff and maybe some players that were still there that had played with him?
Yeah, not to go too long on that, but you always look at those situations, and through my lens, I was looking through it like, Lord, was I intentional with him? And Lord reminded me of some things. The year before, really a few months before, he was diagnosed with cancer. So he was 20 years old when he was diagnosed with some a rare form of bone cancer. Well, a few months before, we're at the conference tournament, and he's a very good pitcher. He was a freshman pitcher of the year for us in the conference, and he could eventually play pro ball. He threw 92, 93 miles an hour, and we were very blessed to have him on the team. But as he's warming up that day for the conference tournament game, he wanted to talk, and I'm out there with him in the outfield throwing. This is way before the game is starting, and we're we're throwing flat ground, and we're throwing 60 feet apart and then 90 feet apart and then 120 feet apart, and I'm walking with him. Well, he wants to talk that day, and he's throwing, as we call, bullets. I mean, he's just shoo-pow, shoo-pow. And he says, Coach, come here. He said, Coach, I want to let you know I love you. And I said, I love you too, man. And in my mind, I'm thinking, concentrate. This is a big game for you. And then he throws a few more, 3 or 4. And he says, Coach, I want to thank you for never giving up on me. Because the first school that he was at, they released him. And he called, and I'm like, absolutely. Come on over. I said, we will take you right now. And he said, thank you for never giving up on me. I said, you bet. Absolutely. And then he threw 3 or 4 more pitches, and he looked nice, and everything was flowing good. It was just transitioning well, as we call about in the pitching delivery. And he said, Coach, thank you for telling me about Jesus, and thank you for living the gospel in front of me. And I couldn't say anything after that. It kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I said, Lord, that's why I'm here. And when he got that diagnosis in October, he called me. I still remember. I remembered I was in my vehicle, and he called, and he said, Coach, yesterday I was working on a house, roofing a house. I came down to get something off the trailer, and I bumped the trailer and broke my femur in 2. Well, my first thoughts were, what's going on? And he said, I'm at the hospital, and I've just been diagnosed with cancer. And he starts to cry, and I start to cry too. And he said, but Coach, I'm calling you today to pray for me. And we walked with him, and it wasn't even, he battled that for not even a year. But we would text and call during that time, and he would share with me what he was going through, and also the Bible, deep Bible readings and things that he was writing down, and I was so excited to hear what God was doing in his life. And he texted one time, he's flat on his back. This was 2 months before he passed away, and I still have the text. Because if I get down or depressed sometimes, or if I'm having one of those woe me moments, I don't know if we all have those, but I read that text, and he says, when I start feeling better, Coach, I want you to come over, and we're going to have a really good Bible study. And he would write in his journal, and his mother allowed me to read his journal, and I was just overwhelmed how deep and just awesome what he was writing in his journal, what God was revealing to him through the Word. And I'm hoping that maybe that we could publish that someday. But to make a long story short on that is that's the first thing that hit my heart is it's not just about throwing a ball at a high rate of speed and getting wins and losses. That's out the window, really. But are we impacting and influencing their lives? And I'll say this a lot. I said, I want you to learn from my positives, but I want you to learn from my weaknesses. If you learn more from my weaknesses, then praise the Lord. Yeah. And I also tell them this too, and the players, and I said, and I learned from you. Like yesterday, I learned from those 3 guys working with me, and I said, I'm so grateful you're here. I said, you encouraged my heart today. I said, we did a pretty difficult task, and it took us a while, but I said, I learned a lot from you. And I said, you've made me better today. But how the team is coping through the passing of one of their teammates, it hasn't been easy. We do mention him quite often, and we want his memory to continue to be evident. And the players will mention that too. So, well, he would enjoy this season, wouldn't he, Coach? I'm thinking, he sure would, but he's enjoying it a lot more where he's at in heaven. And then I want to be, as a coach, aware of that and sensitive, I think, through the word, is the word of they may be thinking that too, that my teammate's not able to go through the season with me. And I want to help them to unpack that and talk with them through that. It's not easy. It's never easy. But at the same time, I want them to know that we want to walk with them through this journey.
So kind of wrapping up things here, as a coach, as someone who played professionally, if you could say 1 or 2 sentences, and I know as pastors that's hard to do, but 1 or 2 sentences to encourage coaches and student athletes, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that their time is valuable. That their time is valuable, and even though it's for the end result of being successful, usually it's through wins and losses, as I said earlier, but that every moment, I believe, every moment with these student athletes is needed, and that their time and their effort that they put in that nobody knows, and the long hours that these coaches put in, especially on high school and college level, you're putting in long hours, and most people don't realize that. I wouldn't realize that if I wasn't doing this. But the time that they have is needed, and to take advantage and and for that to for them to be serious of, okay, not only in the instruction, like for example, if I have a player or players from an hour, what else can I pour into them within that hour, and also build that trust where they can have to call at 2 a.m. in the morning, going through some of the difficult times of their lives.
Sure.
And if the family member passes away, that hopefully the coach would be the first person to be called. That it's just not coaching. It's just not, but it's much more of that. And that my encouragement to coaches is that that their time is valuable in front in the lives of their players, and it's needed. Oh, it's so needed.
Yeah. Well, Duffy, thank you for being with us here today on Doc Talks. Of course, I'm Doc Bryan. You can find me at thedocbryan.com. We're at LifeWord Studios today. You can find that content at lifeword.org. And, of course, Central Baptist College. You can find more about their degree programs and athletics at cbc.edu. Duffy, again, thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you very much.